whether it is in politics, whether it's economy, whether it is diplomacy, whether it's conflict resolution, as we see from these terrible conflicts around the world, how important it is that you take into consideration the full spectrum of life and respect of life. Without, I know from my own experience, from my own country, if you do not have the education and the background, that appropriate background, if you can't make your own money, you don't have that independence, it's the key to everything. So perhaps these would be the comments I would have at the beginning. There are tremendous structural difficulties in the Arab world, many things to overcome. I was posted in Syria from 93 to 93 to 96, so 20 years ago. And I discovered a completely new kind of culture for myself. I did not know the country or Arab world prior to that. And lo and behold, I discovered something completely different what my colleagues had told me earlier on. Oh, it's going to be difficult for a Western woman to work in the Arab world. On the contrary, what you as a woman, you have is access to the official world where mostly the decision makers are men, but you also have access to the private world. 20 years ago, our government was trying to get an NGO registered, or NGO was trying to do it on their own, very incapable. Embassy was asked to intervene. I went to see the Minister of the Environment. This was some kind of a green NGO or so forth. And discussions were hopeless. We could not get anywhere. And I came away from that meeting very disappointed and thought, well, there are other ways of doing this. His wife was a friend of mine and had a beauty salon. And I thought, well, this isn't the time for a little mani-pedi. And went over there and then mentioned that, listen, I just met your husband earlier on this morning. He was so mean to me. The very next morning, the minister himself gave me a call and said, oh, Mrs. Kirsti, I think we found a solution to our problem. What had happened earlier in the evening said, listen, Kirsti, she's our friend. You can't do this small little thing, you know. So there are many sides to our societies, and I think this, for example, is perhaps a hidden factor when we look at Arab societies, and so much of the both unrest and radicalization that we see both in the Arab world inside and elsewhere in the world.
I think that women are struggling, it doesn't matter if it is in diplomacy or in any other career, struggling to get to have the same opportunities as men have. And we have to struggle and work harder in order for them to achieve something. Once we think we are arriving to a job, we have a responsibility towards the people, the other women that are in the same career, in the case of diplomacy, in the diplomatic service, to help them to achieve the posts and to be able, once they are in the job, to be of help to women in other places. Music is my life. I do believe that it opens doors. There are different ways of arriving to the authorities or to whenever you are in a different country, in a foreign country, and you have to reach them. One way is, at least for me, it's music, and it has been proven in many ways. In Denmark, where I was appointed, I was the ambassador there, and we had a concert for Her Majesty in the palace. 2 days later, just walking in Copenhagen, people were stopping me. You are from Peru, you played for my queen. And that made a difference. They didn't know my name, and that had no importance. But they knew that it was from Peru, and then they started asking, and the same thing went on to open meetings with people. And they were calling, and they knew I was there, which means it really opens doors. So it gives me personal satisfaction to play music, and it also helps me with the job I have to do.
In our region, the Philippines has been in the forefront of women empowerment. I think that my country is the first to establish an institutional mechanism, and hold your breath, it happened during the martial law days of former President Ferdinand Marcos in 1975. So we had created a national commission on the role of Filipino women. And today it's now called the Commission on Women. And most agencies, I mean, because we're speaking about government representation here, have a unit for gender and development. And of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Department of Foreign Affairs, where I come from, we have this specific Magna Carta for women being implemented. So gender and development is a specific sector that's funded by all foreign service posts of the Philippines. We have an allocation for that, so each foreign service post is being monitored that we should have an activity that promotes gender and development. When Aung San Suu Kyi was still under house arrest, I met with her party and at the embassy, and many of the military intelligence were actually outside. And the meeting started at 10 o'clock and we finished at around 2 because they were really very elderly. After that meeting, I went to Nipido and I told them, you know, I had 5 elderly people and you sent 10 young, fully armed people outside the embassy. I don't think that is your intention. I think what you wanted to just demonstrate is that, you know, that you're trying to monitor the movement of these opposition members. So that did not create any tension at all. I did make some channels to be like a sort of like a courier, if you may, like the US Postal Service, trying to explain why this side is doing this, why the other side is doing this. And again, I fully share what our Consul General from Finland said, that you have to use the other channel, the spouses channel. In the region where I come from, I told the generals that, well, there's something nice about you guys. You give your salary directly to your wives. I think this is a country that that particular element or cultural aspect should be shared to the international community. And they all laugh. And then I asked, oh, of course I know why you're laughing, because you don't tell your wife whether the money that you gave is already deducted. So this kind of little small talk with them, and it brought some trust, and at the same time brought some engagement. I'm very optimistic about that country, and I told her that maybe in 2016 there's going to be a new woman president from the Republic of the Union of Myanmar.
Society changes, and I think what we're all seeing in all our countries is pressure to change and to be very much more inclusive than we all used to be. And I think that women are benefiting greatly from that. We all know that the world is not a perfect place, but I think we've all made enormous strides. Otherwise, so many of us wouldn't be here today talking about these things. But what I notice in the UK now, not only, of course, are these movements very strong and women are not slow to stand up for their rights, but it's not just female empowerment and equality, it's gender equality, sexual equality, it's ethnicity. And these are all immensely important issues, because as colleagues here recognise, we can't do our jobs if we don't actually represent our countries in all their variety. And we can't represent our countries adequately if, for example, we're leading or part of offices that are men only. That time has absolutely gone, and I hope that by the end of today, we'll have learned that, we shouldn't be looking backwards. We should be embedding what we've got now and really pushing forward to embed even greater, wider change in our organisations and in society as a whole. I go back a very long way in the diplomatic service, a very long way. When I joined, it was a requirement for women to resign on marriage. So from the transition from that time when women really didn't have much in the way of opportunity to now is quite remarkable. I think we've got nearly 40 women heads of post around the world. It's a mixture of accident and and being in the right place at the right time, actually. I mean, we mustn't overlook the fact that sometimes you just are lucky. In those days, not only did a woman have to resign and marry, but it didn't matter who you were. You just got a call from personnel department, in which department I did do a stint of 3 years in the early 80s, saying, you know, dear Miss Hay, your next job is in X place to do Y responsibilities, and the timing is Z, pack up and go. Since then we've become very democratic, we bid for jobs, which is remarkable, because what it means, of course, is that you can think about your own career, what you want to do, the skills you want to acquire, the places that interest you, and you can think about your families, because now we do take husbands and spouses with us, partners, unmarried partners, and it means the same for everyone. Where in the past, personnel department deemed that they knew what was best for you as an officer. You don't think that you're doing a difficult job, you just think you're doing a job. And you put everything that you've got into it, and I think that's what women are really very, very good at. That's what we do, we don't give up, we always find another way. What I didn't realise as I was doing these crazy jobs, because frankly I enjoyed being in difficult places. You actually have real challenges every minute of the day, and it's extraordinary the skills that you have to apply. But of course you also become role models, both for your own organisation and for outsiders. One of my best moments was in Tashkent, having had, you know, a nice reception and, you know, my pretty, you know, residence above our lovely little micro-sized embassy, really, and a wonderful old Uzbek gentleman in his traditional tubitsika, little square hat that you will have seen in photographs and things, shook my hand very warmly at the end. He said, I have a daughter and I want her to be like you.
Aww.
It's very easy for us to think that because we come from sophisticated environments, that people who live in environments that are different to ours are sometimes not so worldly as we are, not quite as open to new ideas as we are, but you know what? They are. You've just got to find the way to get at them. And the best way, I found, is actually being myself.